So welcome to another Wargame preview from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at This War Without an Enemy, which is it's a two-player English Civil War game from Nuts Publishing. It is on Kickstarter right now.
Right now, yes.
I'm going to post this today, and you'll have 8 or 9 days left of the campaign. But if you're watching this afterwards, you can kind of, see this as a preview. Hey, is this something I want to get a hold of? So, English Civil War game. It is a block war game, and it is a card-driven block war game.
Yes.
So this is something. So the English Civil War, something that is new to us. We haven't played any English Civil War games. We've played war games that are kind of in this time period,
Right.
or uses, you had some similar tactics and weapons.
Here I stand as an example. Obviously, it's a little earlier, but...
Yes. But this is, it was nice and refreshing to read in the rules about some of the stuff that happened that isn't just World War II or
Right.
World War I or Vietnam. So I always enjoy doing new conflicts, especially ones, I'll be honest, where the game is simple enough that I can actually focus on some of the history.
Yeah.
And because some of the Civil War games,
Well, you're trying to figure out the tactical
very crunchy and
nuances, yeah.
it's line up your guys and it's like field battles, and it
Yeah.
takes 4 hours to do one field battle. This
Right.
was kind of a huge overall strategic campaign, and so that was nice because I'm familiar with card-driven games, familiar with block war games,
Right.
Area movement. So doing that, I was focused less on the rules and more on what was happening in the story and the history and the theme. Which, that's fun. I like to do that in a war game. I like to learn.
Yeah. Well, and I also think being a new kind of chapter of history that we're focusing on, I think this game, it felt really good. It was an interesting introduction to that.
Yes.
I thought it was laid out very well. I thought the rules were very clear. I don't know. It was a nice way to ease into this time period. I'm sure there's crunchier games out there, but we actually thought this was quite crunchy, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
We'll get
crunchier than some of the other games that we've played
that are this style. Absolutely.
block. So,
And the other nice part about this is the game comes with, I don't know how many, it's like 5 or 6 scenarios.
yes.
So you can play the full campaign, and it's 1, 2, 3, it's 4 and a bit years. Or there's a bunch of scenarios where they kind of break it up. You can do just the early war, where it's the initial kind of royalist campaign, or you can do just the end of the war, or you can do a mid portion. There's different things that you can do and play around with, so you don't have to sit here and play the whole thing.
Right.
If you don't have the time for it, or you just want to learn within learning scenario, you can do that and then sit down and play a big campaign as
Right.
well. So that's also nice that it has that going for it too.
Yep.
So it being a card-driven block war game, we've played a few of those. This one, core mechanics are the same, right? You play a card that has a value on it. That's how many actions you can take. Actions are moving, mustering guys,
Recruiting.
Yeah,
Pretty simple.
Very similar, familiar things. Some of the cards have events on them as well. Some of them don't. Some of them just numbers. Some of them have events on, and it'll tell you what kind of phase of the game it triggers in.
Yep.
And you have this kind of a blind bidding system. I don't know if it's bidding, but if you bid for the initiative, you have a hand of 6 cards at the beginning of a year.
The choice to decide who has initiative.
So you have your hand of 6 cards. For this turn, you put one of them face down.
Yep.
You're going to put one face down. You flip them over. Who's got the highest number? They do their actions first.
Or they get the choice.
If it's a tie, they get to choose.
Okay, right.
I think if they have a higher number, you go first. I believe.
And there are times, we had it a couple of times where going first was very advantageous.
Very, yes.
Either a city had been vacated and it's like a race to try to get there, or to move an army to block. And I think it's very key. It's a subtle thing, but it turns out to be pretty important.
It might not happen all the time, but when it does, I can see this thing. You can see that thing.
It's not hard.
So now my initiative bid is oh, good gracious. This is much more important. So you might sack a really good card with an event on it that might not be opportune, but you need the number just to do this tactical thing on the board. And that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
That was neat that came up a few times. But the card, but it's very simple. You play one card, you do the numbers, right? Moving is very easy. You activate this kind of area, and you can move any number of blocks out of it, or you can do the reverse, where you're saying, I'm going to muster in this area, and all kind of the adjacent areas, you can move the blocks into it. That's the way to do group moves. You can always just move a couple of guys over here for movement points, but it might be not as efficient depending on what you're trying to do.
Yep. And the difference between that muster, though, is you can't then engage in a battle.
Yes, you can't say, "Oh,
I'm going to muster everybody to this
You've
siege.
got one block over there.
Yeah.
I'm going to send everyone there to fight." Nope. You can't initiate a battle. However, if you're sieging me, you can bring more guys in that way.
Right.
You can do that to reinforce something that's happening.
But I liked that subtlety about that nuance of that action, because it made me think about it. Boy, I really got to get some guys together, but I also want to attack. So it's a matter of you got to think through what you want to do with it, and I like that.
And it's small rules like that I actually really enjoyed in the game, because that rule is there not only to not break the game, but also for in my brain for historical purposes.
I would agree with that.
You muster the troops. You give them a rousing speech, organize the battle plan,
then you
march off to battle. You can't just gather everyone and hope to have some cohesion. It's just not going to happen.
Nope. Particularly not in this time.
Yeah, right. And that's so the small little bits like that I did feel with thematic, where you're like, oh, I wish I could do like one extra thing, be like, you just didn't have the capabilities.
Right.
And I liked that a lot. The combat in this one has both some very familiar standard block wargame combat, but there's also some extras and some cool rules in there to make it its own. And it adds, and this is kind of what we talked about, there's a bit more meat in some of the combat. In a lot of block wargames, you kind of line them up in firing priority, and you just go down the line. He attacks him, chuck the dice. He attacks him, chuck the dice. You attack me, chuck the dice, right?
Yep.
You do it like that. This one, there is an aspect of that, but in this one you have infantry, you have cavalry, and you have artillery pieces. And the first thing that happens is you shoot your artillery pieces, right?
Because when the troops come together, unless you're just an evil despotic king,
you're not going to shoot your own guys.
You can't shoot your own guys. So
and that's what you have to understand, right? This is guys in mail, running up with halberds and pikes, stabbing each other to death. And so you can't get clear shots with your artillery.
Yeah.
You shoot them across the field once, and then they're basically done for the whole rest of combat.
Unless you have an event that allows them to shoot again.
Yeah, there's one event that does that, which can be very helpful.
Yeah.
But you basically...
If you roll your numbers, your rolls weren't great today.
You basically blow your artillery, and then it's... Your infantry have the option of shooting their muskets.
Yep.
Which is not good.
No.
They do that with...
It's like a pot shot.
Much harder for them to hit.
Well, it's their effectiveness number, which is their to-hit number.
Yeah.
If they fire in that way, you reduce
-1.
that by 1. Most of them had 2s.
Most of them are 2s, or at most 3s.
Yeah.
So it's really a crapshoot.
But the advantage there, I liked the tactical... Sorry, I'm interrupting you. The tactical side of that is, you know what? If I could, reduce him by 1 or 2... That's 1 or 2 dice he's not going to be rolling against me.
Or if I have a good force where I've got 3 infantry that can engage, maybe 1 or 2 that are doing this, I can take a pot shot and I've still got a strong force to get into melee with as well.
Yeah.
So again, all these little bits add up to there's some things to think about.
Yep.
It isn't just get a good number of blocks in and hope for the best.
Yep.
Which some games do that.
Yeah.
So you have that firing infantry, because that's the other part. If you don't shoot with them and you want to engage in melee, that happens last.
Yes.
So you're like, I can take a couple pot shots early, or I'm going to go last and get their full strength.
Yeah.
Because, so if you do have any, you kind of shoot, great. Then you have cavalry, they kind of go off, and so your cavalry attack other cavalry. And that's the other interesting part. If you've got 2 cavalry, you will have a cavalry battle going on each side.
Yeah.
You have to attack the cavalry first. And if you do, there's like this whole cavalry discipline thing that happens where, if I do more cavalry hits to your cavalry than you do to mine, your guys may rout. So it's a die roll to see if your cavalry run away.
Do they hold their position or do they run away?
Yeah. And then if they do, I have to roll a die to see if I can stop my cavalrymen
from
chasing
running them down.
down.
Yeah.
And if I don't, and this happened to us, it was hilarious. My guys routed, and your guys chased them down. It takes them off the field of battle,
and they don't
off,
do any.
They're off, sortying over here. And,
Yeah.
and the infantry are like, "Wait, what?
Where'd they go?" that was a very interesting concept. And when that bad roll happened, I'm like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah.
But it was very thematic. I thought it was
Absolutely.
very cool.
It's a really simple way to put in the difficulty of controlling cavalry in the 17th century.
Yeah.
It's one roll for you. If you mess it up, one roll for me. And then they just basically go into these boxes that don't do anything.
Yep.
You're like, oh, great. But again, it's the little meat. So how much cavalry do I put into this battle? How many do I commit?
Right.
How many do I think you have that, maybe I can just wipe you and I don't have to worry about it? Or lots of nuance in there. And then after all that...
Well, I want to say one more thing about
sure.
that. So putting those cavalry in that battle, because you can make an attempt to evade, in essence, run away. But if I'm attacking you and you decide, oh, this isn't a good battle for me, I'm going to run away. If I have a cavalry unit, you can't.
If I don't have one.
Right, if you don't have one.
If I have cavalry and you have them, I can make a roll of dice to run away. Or if I have them and you don't, I can just auto run away.
Right. So I thought that was interesting too. Once again, something to think about.
Yeah, your force composition really meant something.
Yes, it did.
And then, after you do all of that cool stuff, then you get into just your infantry melee.
Slugging it out.
And you just have a ton of dice, and you just mash them all, and get whilst you stab each other. And then you do that for a couple rounds, and you might retreat or leave, depending. But so, kind of the concepts of the combat are familiar, but how you actually conduct it, I thought was very refreshing.
I would agree with that,
And,
yes.
And after the first battle, I had to sit there like, okay, I did not go how I thought it was.
Yeah.
So this is very different to what I'm used to. And so then each of the battles, I was like, okay, I've got this guy and this guy and this guy. Maybe I need to bring in another guy as a defensive option. Or if I send only cavalry units to do a fight, it's really easy for them to feint and then to run away and to distract you from doing other things that you might want to do on the board.
Yeah.
So there's just some really neat things in this one from that standpoint that I enjoyed as well.
Well, and the other thing that they did, they provided, there's this little battle board.
Yes.
And I don't know that you can completely see it, but it's structured very well to help you understand the sequence of combat. And I think the imagery here really made it kind of stand out, and I understood why they were doing certain things. Well, so that was cool.
It's also got a little sequence of combat on there and a round market, and I'm like, how many block war games have we played where you just line up off the side of the board and do it? Having a battle board, it's just nice.
It's kind of cool,
right?
Yeah.
It's just, it looks nice, and that's the other really impressive part of this game. This is a beautiful game.
Oh, the production value and art is really good.
Yes.
Really good.
The art on the events of the cards are historical drawings, which are very cool.
Yes.
But the map is gorgeous, and I want to shout out who it was. Is it Nicholas
Roblin?
It's Nicholas Roblin.
Or Roblin,
oh my gosh. This map is the best.
It's very
we
nice.
were talking about this is a frameable map to put on a wall. It's
and we printed it out. You printed it out on a glossy
because
surface.
obviously this is like a prototype, but this is the finished map, I believe, just based
close to it,
based on the size of the image. It's the detail of the markings and the drawings. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yes,
I couldn't be happier with this map, frankly.
Yeah, and I actually thought the different regions were clearly outlined as well. I liked the text. It was easy to read. The imagery of the small castles or fortified villages versus, large cities was good. Yeah, very well done graphically.
Yes.
For sure.
And even the pieces, right? Mm-hmm. The pieces have lines of infantry or horses on there. They're nice pictures on the blocks as well. Not just like NATO symbols.
Right, they've done a good job. They've done a good job to make
like
this... to make this be very attractive.
Yes, that's something I would say I would agree with. It's a very, very nice game to look on a table. And I'll go back to it. There's a bit of meat here for the gameplay, but at the end of the day, you're still chucking a whole bunch of dice. Yeah. So it's still like...
It is a dice match.
There can be a swing, or be like, I had a crappy roll, or this part happened that wasn't my favorite, or like, I rolled amazingly. Super unrealistic results that you just wiped someone. But that's the flow of any of these style games.
Well, we often play these historical games, and then at the end of the day, it's a game.
Yes.
you got to have some luck in there. You got to have some chance in there.
Yeah.
I think there's enough ways to mitigate that by making sure you get your good units in, your 3s, and don't rely on a whole bunch of 2s because you're just not going to hit. So it didn't bother me that it was a dice masher.
No.
It felt good to roll. Most of those times I was rolling 6 to 10 dice, and it felt good.
Yeah, that's always fun to do.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll show you the board and how it kind of plays, some of the actual mechanics of it, and you can take a closer look at some of the pieces because it looks great. And then what we'll do is we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the map, and this is prototype stuff, but I believe that at least the map artwork is very close to being finished, if not finished, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I like the very dark, rich blues, and it has this kind of yellow gold. I don't even know what you'd call that, like the overlays of the different things. Even from your the compass star and the lines, it just looks like a really nice product. But the detailing of the of the victory point track it could have just been a box with some numbers, right? How many games do that? But it's got all this intricate detailing on it, and the colors go from kind of blue to orange, which are obviously the two different sides of the swinging pendulum. Just, it's such a nice looking map, and I cannot speak highly enough about it. Even the London holding box. This is London right here, which has all this nice symbology on it, but you have the London holding box, and just how nice that is. I love the look of this game. And I'll show you a few of the pieces. Again, prototype pieces, but I believe that these are, finished. If they weren't finished, I would be surprised. Just how nice those look. With the different pictures on them. Just, they're very, very nice to play with. The cards, they will show you just some of the Royalist cards here. So some of them are blank with just a number on them. But some of them have like an event on it, where it just has some nice artwork on there. Like, this is the Camp Fever. And, they've trawled through and picked out all these very cool old drawings from history. Just neat to play and to have. It's always nice when the components are fun to play with. Now, as far as the gameplay goes, the game, I don't know if you can see this, there's a year marker that goes up. You're going to play 4 and a bit years. And then in each year, there's 6 turns. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regular turns, and then there's a winter turn, which there's some restrictions. You can't do any combats, things like that. So that's how each of the years is going to go. For each year, you will have, for each average year, you're going to have 6 cards. And your little hand of 6 cards correspond, as you might imagine, to the 6 turns. So you're going to play 1 card each turn. So on turn 1, I'm going to choose one of my cards to play, and that's basically what's going to dictate what I can do on my turn. So on turn 1, for example, I'm going to play this card, and the card has a 3 value. That's how many action points I'm going to have. It also has this event here, which is the Roundhead Cavalry fails to charge. Any battle that I choose in the tactical phase, in round 1 of this battle, parliamentarian cavalry blocks engage at -1 effectiveness, which means that to hit roll on their dice is -1, which is pretty punishing. So I play that card. Let's say my opponent plays, he also plays a 3 value card. This event, the Bradford Clubman, that one's out of the game. That event's already triggered. He played a 4, just a regular 4. So because he's got a higher number than me, he goes first. So he's going to spend 4 action points. And an action point can be used to move. I can say, I would like to move guys from this space. So everyone in this space can move. They don't have to go to the same place. They can do, but they don't have to. They could go to all different places. When you move 2 spaces. Or up to 2 spaces. So you can move 1, you can move 2. Now the only important thing to remember here is these dotted lines are open terrain, which means you can move any amount of guys across them as you want. If you have a river, then I think only 4 guys can move across. If this guy wants to go here, he's going to have to go 1, 2, and come in a different way. If you're doing regular movement, that doesn't actually matter. But if I was doing that into a combat hex, for example, let's say I was in here, I move 4 guys into this combat, and the other guy goes 1, 2, then these guys are going to fight. He has to be a reserve. He can't join the fray until round 2. That's why that kind of stuff becomes important with the borders. And the mountain hex sides, which are just these ones, are even more prohibitive. Now, the only other thing that you have to consider when you're doing movement is you can kind of see the borders divided up into some regions. You have the north, which has this kind of light border along here. You have the east, which has this red border over here. You've got the Midlands, which has like a dark border in the middle. The south has a yellow border, and Wales in the Marches has this purple border. That corresponds to the home region of a lot of these pieces. You can see this little red E, which means their home region is the east. Currently, they're all in Cambridgeshire. If they want to leave their home region, the units cannot move themselves. They have to have a leader with them. And it's that whole, this is where their loyalty is, this is where they were levied by their local leader, and he can take them on marches into combat. The troops wouldn't go on their own. They're not going to leave their homelands undefended unless there's a good cause, which the leader's going to take them to do. So what you're going to find is you're going to, take your guys from the east out on a campaign, do a couple of battles, move around. At the end of the year, these guys have to go back home for the winter. So you've got to be careful about where you take guys. I might run them up here, take York, and then all of a sudden they all have to go back home, and then I had York, but now it's undefended. So your unit composition and who you keep where is important for protracted campaigns and long-range attacks and sieges that you want to do. You want to get up here, take this, then kind of raise some troops and recruit some guys who are northerners, so that when these guys leave, I've still got troops controlling this area, for example. That's the major thing with movement that you got to consider. There is some sea movement, so Henrietta can kind of sail across the sea. You want to have control of these major ports to make that easy. If you don't, you got to make a die roll, and you might be intercepted, or you might just not be allowed to come across, things like that. And then, but really, the major focus is moving, doing combats and sieges. So at combat, as you may imagine, you line up your blocks and you attack each other. It's a little bit more complex than that. So we have this battle board, which is kind of the same color as the map, so let's see if we can't see this very well. So you have an attacker side and a defender side. So let's say I've got my attackers at this orange stack and my defenders at this blue stack. I have no idea what's in here, so we're going to find out. All right. So we have 2 infantry and 2 cavalry and a 3rd infantry here. And then the attacking force, we have 1, 2 cavalry. We have an infantry, and an infantry. Oh, these are actually even forces. That's pretty interesting. So, like most block war games, defender's going to shoot first, so to speak. The defender has the option to try and retreat, but they figure, we'll stick it out. And so we're going to do a combat. And you just go down this line of what's going to happen. You can signal a retreat in turns 2 and 3. In turn 2, any reserves you might have, remember, that entered from a different area or were coming out of a besieged fortress that you're relieving, they would join in turn 2. Artillery fire. We don't have any artillery, but basically you pick a target, infantry or cavalry, then they shoot. Real simple. Now, that's all they do. In turns 2 and 3, they sit there and do nothing. You can only shoot once with them. So they look pretty, but using them, then you can't rely on them as your strategy. You don't want to do that. Then the defender's going to choose what to do with their infantry. So they can either stay in this firing infantry box, in which case they're going to take a few pot shots with their worsened effectiveness value. So you're going to roll dice based on the pips. So this guy has 4 pips, and he's going to roll 4 dice, and he needs a 2 or less to hit. If I'm in the firing infantry, I'm just shooting a musket, super inaccurate. I'm actually -1 to that effectiveness value. So I'm going to shoot 4 dice needing 1s. And that's not easy to do. For example, let's just chuck these and see what happens. And I rolled 1-1. Well, of course, that would show up. So that's kind of a crapshoot. But if I choose to say I'm going to engage them all in melee, what happens is I get my full effectiveness rating, but it's going to happen later on. And that gets important. For example, if I didn't have any cavalry defending, then these cavalry are just going to like charge in at +1, do a whole bunch of damage, and then we're going to do this melee. So I'm going to be much weaker. But because we've got some combined arms, we're probably in a good spot to do this. Once the defenders decided that, then the attacker's going to decide what they're going to do. Well, they're actually going to do the same thing. We're going to try and get as much effectiveness out of these guys as we can. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a cavalry battle. So the defending cavalry are going to attack. And they've got 6 pips needing 3s to hit. So they're going to chuck 6 dice. And I rolled 5 hits. Wow, that's brutal. So we're going to, these are both identical. So we're going to lose 5 pips worth of stuff. That could not have been a better roll, basically. And then I've got 1 pip to fight back with. 1 pip needing a 3, which I missed. So, what's really important here now is because I did a devastating attack, but we still have cavalry left, we're going to check to see if my guy's going to rout. So I need a 3 or less for my cavalry to stay on the board. And I rolled a 3 or less, so he's going to stay on the board. That's great. If you fail that roll, he goes into the routing cavalry box, and he's basically out of combat. Which, if anything, isn't terrible because he might survive by running away. If I do rout, then the defender then has to roll his discipline value, which is a 2, to see if they chase them off the board, basically. So he's going to roll a 2, and he misses, so involuntarily, he's going to go into the pursuing cavalry. Basically, it takes them out of combat. Because these guys ran away and these guys chased them down, and I couldn't flag the cavalry down enough to tell them to stop because they were running away so fast. And it's little nuances like that, like I said, it's so cool, and it models the difficulty of battlefield control at a time where there was very poor communication. After we've done our cavalry fights, then we're going to do our infantry. So I've got 6 dice needing 2s. And I rolled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. This could not be going any better. And you have to take them evenly from the highest number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's absolutely insane. Because then I've got 4 dice needing 3s, which is also very, very good. So defending can be good. And I only rolled 1 hit on that, of course. So now, as the attacker, I've got 6 dice needing 2s. And I'll roll nothing. I rolled 2 hits. So we're going to take 1 hit and 2 hit. And that was the first round of combat. You do a second round of combat, and then a third round of combat. And you can always decide to try and retreat, in which case you're going to take a full round of hits and then leave with whatever's left. It can be very punishing. But that's combat. There's some nuances to if you fire or engage, how many cavalry do I bring, how many do I think you've got, if I can get a cavalry advantage and just charge your infantry, how many artillery do I bring, is it worth it, or should I just send them off to siege somewhere, things like that. Very, very cool, winner or loser is going to retreat out of a space, very simple. The only other major aspect of this game is the sieging, and each of the different city types the sizes can hold a certain amount of defenders, and that amount of defenders will defend. Basically, you need 2 hits to do 1 reduction to them. 2 hits to do 1 reduction. And as soon as... So defensively, it's nice. If you've got 2 guys in York, I've got 8 dice that I'm rolling on you, just normally, and you've got only a few guys who are trying to storm the castle, but then they've got, it's effectively half dice, right? So for this would be, instead of 2 hits, this would be 1 hit if I needed a 2 or less. So it can be very, very brutal in some of these harder to siege places. Some of them you can, storm 4 guys. London, you can charge in 8 guys. Hull, very tough. You can only bring 1 guy at a time. So this is an instance where instead of running guys up the breach and it's a meat grinder, what you can do is you can just sit there and starve them out. Anytime you put someone under siege, you put out a marker that has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 on it. Well, that's got 0, 1, 2, 3. Then there's a 4, 5, or 6 marker. You put them under siege, and then the first turn, nothing happens. The next turn, it goes to a 1. And as soon as it gets to a 1, there is a siege resolution table you're going to roll on right here. And once you start getting into the 2, 3, 4s, and 5s, these red ticks mean you're going to surrender and take losses. So the first turn, probably not going to surrender. Second turn, 2 and 3 chance you're going to sit there. Turn 3 of the siege is a 50-50 to whether you give up or not. So you might have time to send a relieving force up there, because sending 1 guy up the breach to storm, very, very difficult. So this is an instance you sit there and you have to plan your campaign so you've got enough time before the game ends for you to take that, or to take it back if you need to. The sieging is really, really neat in that way. But that's a lot of what the core mechanics are. It's very easy. You move, you can spend your action points that you have to increase guys' strength as they get wounded, or if you've got dead guys off the map, to bring them back on. And it's just this rolling campaign of trying to take and hold these victory cities. And if you can get if you can get to 3 victory points and keep that to the end of a victory check, you'll auto win the game, because you'll have dominated enough of the victory cities. But more often than not, you're going to be hanging around 1 or 2, and it's this kind of pendulum swing, and it gets very tense. But that's it. That's a lot of the game. It's absolutely gorgeous. Mechanically very simple. What we'll do is we'll wrap up here with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the map. The one thing that we hadn't talked about previously, which was very enjoyable, was the siege combat.
Yeah.
Which is a huge part of this game, because the victory points come from the fortified cities, basically. And the game is played on that pendulum of victory points. You have to, every time I gain 1, you're going to lose 1, so it's the swing. So it has to be, I don't know, it has to be important. It has to feel very difficult.
Challenging,
It can't just be like a walk in the park. And some games are either too easy or way too hard. And this one I thought had a decent middle ground. And they put also in some different nuance into just the cities based on their locations as well. But each of those cities has a limit to how many guys can storm into the city, and a limit based on their size as to how many guys can defend in it.
Yep.
There's some defensive modifiers for defense, which are great.
That was great for you, not for me.
And then on top of that, you also have the siege markers. So there comes a point where for some of the sieges you're like, I'm not even going to bother storming it. I'm going to starve you out.
I'm going to make you make a roll.
Yes.
To determine, do you surrender? Do you have some attrition? And that was cool, because over here, Hull was very well defended by you.
Yes, and it's also geographically well placed.
Kind of isolated.
You can only have one block storm it.
Yeah.
Which is super ineffective. Don't do that.
So I told myself, you know what? I'm just going to move 3 or 4 guys in there, and they're going to sit there and force you to make that roll every turn after the first.
And it gets worse and
harder,
worse and worse.
Yep.
And that's the one thing I really enjoyed about the sieges in this one, is I felt like they were manageable.
Yeah.
There are a lot of games that we've played where I'm like, starving people out was just like
It
not
took forever,
a viable option.
Yeah.
But this one I'm like, it was viable, and
Yep.
it could be effective very easily.
It could.
And so I then had to really worry about that and divert forces away from other things I was trying to do.
Right.
And I liked that. Because storming, some places you're like, okay, this place can be stormed. Other places you're like, I can hold out there against your stormings for ages.
Yeah.
I'll make you starve me out. and then I can, send relief forces up to do some field battles and things like that.
Which you did here around Bristol. It was very interesting. I had a good-sized force there, 4 guys assaulting with a 4-guy reserve, and you brought up like 7 units, and because it's a block war game, I didn't know what you had, so I was really nervous when we were laying them out on the board, and then you flipped them over, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So we kind of fought it out. The siege broke. You had to start that timer over again.
You lose 1 pip.
Yeah, you lose 1 pip.
If you commit everything that the besieger has.
Which I did.
Yeah, which was sensible.
But that was interesting. That outcome then really softened you up to the point where I didn't need to worry about a counterattack again.
Oh, yeah.
And it was interesting that came about in that manner. The really tough thing about those sieges is if you don't have cannons, it's going to take 2 hits to reduce a defending unit's strength by 1.
And even if you do have cannons,
it's a roll.
It's a die roll, and not a particularly good one, to see if you can negate that and create a breach, basically.
I never was able to create the breach on the 3 or 4 that I did it on.
And there was an event card with the mines that allowed you to make an extra roll. So you could do that and do a cannons roll if you needed to.
And it still didn't work for me.
So it's... There is a chance that you don't have to go up against the 2-for-1 hits, but a lot of the time you will in this one.
Yeah. So I really felt very thematic to me. The other thing that it felt in the scenario that we chose, there was a real timer. There's a timer going on with the rounds, and it takes several turns to start people out. And sometimes sieges are going to last 2 or 3 turns. So I felt a lot of pressure at the beginning to make sure I got a victory point with an easy win, so that I could then take a little bit more time to do these sieges. So that created a lot of stress for me. I don't know how you were probably relishing in it.
Well, yeah, early on I was like, I'm in a pretty decent spot because I felt like I'd reinforced the places I needed to. And then there came a point like towards the end, I'm like, oh, this is unwinnable.
Yeah.
But any game that has a swing of points, when you get into that final year, there's like 6 turns, it's your last hand. I think every game you're going to be like, this is tense.
Yeah.
You either have to go and get points, or you have to hang on for dear life onto the points that you have, because you know what's coming. Yeah. And that feeling is something I love in war games.
Yeah.
That's a big reason why I like war games, because it's meaningful, right? I either have to defend a position, or I got to go and take one.
Yeah.
And in other types of games, it's how do I get some points by moving some cubes around in different colors, right?
Yeah.
I like war games because there's something tangible, something real to it. And especially this was some history, however ahistorical your game may have turned out.
Right.
At least, these are guys on the battlefield trying to do something for the cause that they were. And I like that. And I felt like this had that really good tension, especially at the end. Oh, gosh.
The other thing I love about these style of war games, these area movement, area control, is with the sea movement concept, you're never really safe. You can always be moved in by the back. I was trying to garrison my 2 cities in the back, and I kept saying to myself, "Uh-oh, he's going to bring some sea invasions up."
The Scots are going to join in and just roll down from the north.
But I like that because there's a lot of strategy to it. And where do I keep a reserve so that I can fight off an invasion? So I thought that was very well done in this map, and I know they spend hours trying to draw these areas out and make it so you can't get here in 1 turn. It takes 2.
Balancing different bits and pieces. They've done a good job with that.
So I like that about this game, and I think Scott did a good job in that element as well. The supply was also very interesting.
Yes.
The supply is based on the terrain type that you're in. Mountainous terrain gives less supply, so you can only have, I think it was 3 units, give or take, 3 or 4.
I think it's half supply. I think it's 2 or 3. It's not a lot.
Whereas open, you could have 5 or 6 units in there, and open with a city, you can have 6. And
so it's 4 in open terrain. A town provides 1. A major town provides 2 extra, things like that. So most of these mountains don't have anything extra in them. So you're just like, like I got 1 guy there.
So I like that. I thought that was an easy way to handle supply.
Yeah.
And I think it was thematic for this time as well. They were out shooting conies and
and it's enforced at the end you have a supply phase at the end
Yeah.
of your kind of turn, so you can do some combat with a bunch of guys. If you win, you can redeploy and regroup, so you're not going to break those rules.
Yeah.
Or if you're retreating, you can retreat to a couple different places, and so you don't break those things.
But you can make that decision. I'm going to keep these troops here together because you may counterattack me.
Yeah, or you might need to if you're sieging London,
Yeah.
and you just simply need that many
That
guys.
Yeah.
You
So
might
that was
sod it.
interesting. I thought the supply was well done. The movement was well done. The map was laid out very well. I think it was a good job in that tactical movement area.
This style of game is right up my alley because it's easy to learn and easy to play, and the gameplay is fairly quick.
Yeah.
Like, things change, things move. You roll a bunch of dice. Who
Yeah.
doesn't want to do that? This one's got... We keep saying that it's got some things you really have to think about.
Yep.
And really consider, which some block war games just don't have that as much. You're like, oh, let's go for it and do all this stuff. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, you have to consider some of your moves very carefully. And so I appreciate that this has a decent amount of, not crunch, but like, there's some thought that has to go into some of the
Thought
things that you do.
required.
And I like that. It's nice.
So immediately the comparison I thought of in my mind was Richard III. Different historical period, a lot simpler. I like Richard III. It's one of my all-time favorite games because
fun.
it's one of the first block war games I think we played.
I think it was.
And I just had such a good time with it. I still think about the potato gambit that we did and I did. And anyway, so that compares to this, but this has a lot more crunchiness to it.
This is a bigger game as well.
And it's a step up.
So, yeah, that is like anyone could pick up and play that game.
Yeah.
And a game of that is 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. This is a much longer game than that.
2 to 3 hours is what you're going to play.
This is 2
this
hours
one.
for the whole game, and this has, more meat to it. That one, you can basically move everyone everywhere apart from, like, the archbishops, who have to, like, they're kind of in certain places, and there's a few restrictions on different things that they can do. And that one's got 3 different historical scenarios. You could play as a campaign if you want to.
Yeah.
But you just set up, here's 40 minutes. Very, very fun game. It's a little bit on a shorter, and it is a little bit lighter than this one as well.
Yeah. So this is a little heavier, a
Yes.
little longer, a little more involved in some of the crunchiness and the thought about your moves and actions. So I think this is a step up from a game like that. And once again, we love Richard III
Yeah, I
by
love
Columbia
that game.
Games, but this is really that next level
Yes.
of that game.
But yeah, I had a blast playing this one.
Me too.
And I think the campaign is like, this is going to be a mounted map. This is obviously just like something we printed out. But it's going to be a bumper product as well. They've absolutely knocked out of the park with how this game looks, which is important to me, frankly.
Yeah,
In
I
this
like a
day and
good-looking
age,
game.
you've got to have a
Yep.
good-looking game, too.
Yep,
There's no
absolutely.
excuse not to. So I am very happy with this one. If you're watching this, go check out the Kickstarter page. If it's past the end date, then try and find it.
Right.
Or find someone who's got it's fun to play. I'm sure it'll be on the Nuts website as well to be able to order it. So appreciate you guys tuning in. So this has been This War Without an Enemy from Nuts Publishing. And I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.